Story 1. This happened to me. As the new kitchen manager at the old KFC on Elm Street, I was Alex. I was eager to make my mark, perfecting the Colonel's secret recipe, a fresh start. The Elm Street location was ancient, steeped in decades of fried chicken history. My predecessors, I suspected, had grown complacent. I intended to change that, starting with cleanliness. I believed true perfection began with meticulous attention to detail. Every piece of equipment, every ingredient, every procedure would be scrutinized. I was going to elevate this KFC. The Colonel's 11 herbs and spices were legendary. My goal wasn't to change them, but to ensure their optimal application. I wanted every bite to sing with authentic flavor. I felt a sense of purpose, a connection to the Colonel's legacy. This wasn't just a job, it was a mission. Little did I know, a darker legacy awaited me. My first priority was a deep clean of the ancient fryers. They were caked with years of grease, a testament to neglect. The sheer grime was astounding. Each fryer presented its own challenge, but one in particular stood out. Fryer number 3 had a stubborn, dark residue. It was almost black, unlike the others. I attacked it with industrial-strength degreasers and heavy-duty scrub brushes. Hours passed, my arms aching, but the residue held fast. It was unnervingly resilient. It had an odd texture, almost leathery beneath the grease. I had never encountered anything quite like it in my years in commercial kitchens. This was different. The more I scraped, the more I felt a strange resistance. It wasn't just stuck, it felt embedded. A creeping unease began to settle over me in the quiet kitchen. Scraping deeper, I noticed it wasn't just old grease. It was a pulsating, grayish-pink organic matter. Like a grotesque fungus, it clung tenaciously to the metal surface. An unsettling, sweet metallic odor began to emanate from it, distinct from the usual fryer smell. It was cloying, like old blood mixed with something sickly sweet. My stomach churned. This wasn't food residue. This was something alive, or at least something that had been alive. A disturbing thought formed in my mind. I tried to rationalize it. Maybe some rare mold, a bizarre bacterial colony, but the way it pulsed, the faint, internal movement, defied any simple explanation. I felt a primal revulsion, but also a strange, morbid curiosity. What was this thing, and how long had it been festering in a KFC deep fryer? No amount of industrial cleaner or scrubbing removed it completely. I'd clean a patch, only to find it seemed to regrow subtly by the next morning. It was relentless. That's when I started hearing them, whispers, just at the edge of hearing, faint and indistinct, always when I was alone in the quiet kitchen late at night. They were fleeting, like a breath against my ear, gone the moment I tried to focus. I'd spin around but find nothing, just the hum of the old refrigeration. My nerves were fraying, the constant battle with the residue, the strange smell, and now these phantom sounds. I was exhausted, physically and mentally. I began to suspect the residue was affecting me. Its presence felt oppressive, a silent, unseen entity silently mocking my efforts to clean. I dismissed the whispers as fatigue, a byproduct of stress. But then customers started making unusual comments about the chicken from fryer number 3. It chilled me. "There's a unique tang tonight," one regular remarked, eyes a little too bright, something different. They seemed almost pleased by it. Another customer, a usually reserved woman, leaned in conspiratorially. "It's almost addictive," she whispered, her gaze lingering on her bucket of chicken. The comments grew more frequent. People specifically requested chicken from that one fryer. They couldn't explain why, just that it tasted better. I started to wonder if the residue was affecting the food. Was it leaching something into the oil, something that altered the taste and perhaps more? The whispers intensified too, no longer just vague sounds but fragmented words. I couldn't quite grasp them, but they felt menacing, possessive. I tried to ignore it to focus on my duties, but the thought of that pulsing mass subtly tainting the food began to consume me. It was a horrifying notion. The sweet metallic odor now seemed to cling to my clothes, my skin. I couldn't wash it off. It was a constant, sickening reminder of the fryer's secret. Sleep became a luxury. I'd lie awake, hearing the faint whispers, imagining the residue growing, spreading, infecting everything. My sanity was slipping. The craving from the customers, the subtle changes in their eyes, it was unsettling. Was this addictive tang truly benign, or something more sinister? One night I saw the residue ripple violently. A grotesque, grayish-pink tendril extended from the fryer's interior, reaching towards me as if warning me away. The whispers grew clearer, no longer fragmented. They coalesced into chilling words, repeated over and over: our secret, ours, mine. I stumbled backward, heart pounding. It wasn't just a fungus or bacteria, it was sentient. It knew I was trying to expose it. It was protecting itself. A cold dread washed over me. This thing had been here for years, feeding, growing, twisting the very essence of KFC's beloved chicken. It was a parasitic horror. The tendril slowly retracted, disappearing back into the depths of the residue. But its message was clear. I was treading on dangerous ground. I couldn't just leave it. I couldn't let it continue to poison people, to warp their tastes, to whisper its insidious secrets into the food. This was beyond a deep clean. This required eradication. I knew I had to go deeper, no matter the risk. I had to uncover its source. The thought of the shadowy form hinted at by the tendril's movement sent shivers down my spine. But I couldn't back down now, not after what I'd seen. I prepared myself mentally. This would be the night I faced the KFC secret ingredient, whatever monstrous form it truly took. I had to be ready. I gathered every tool, every cleaning agent. This was my last stand against the horror lurking beneath the golden fried surface of Elm Street KFC. Determined to eradicate it, I stayed late again. I drained fryer number 3 completely, every last drop of oil gurgling down the pipe. With the oil gone, the residue seemed to writhe, agitated. It pulsed faster, the sweet metallic odor growing overpowering, making my head swim. I saw it then, beneath a false plate at the very bottom, a hidden cavity. This wasn't just residue, it was a cover. My hands trembled. Prying the plate open, I gagged. Inside the cavity was a monstrous, pulsating organ. It was grayish-pink, covered in slick membranes and incredibly ancient. It was feeding directly into the oil filtration system, its tendrils snaking into the pipes. It had been there for decades, flavoring the chicken. And beside it, coalescing from the shadows, was a shadowy form, tall, gaunt, its eyes glowing faintly. It was the source of the whispers, the guardian. The whispers were deafening now. Ours, forever, you are part of the secret. My blood ran cold. This was no mere ingredient. I fled that night, leaving the horror behind, screaming, but the whispers follow me still, a persistent echo in my mind. I'll never forget that night. Sometimes I wonder about the secret ingredient in every KFC. Did I escape, or am I just another part of its recipe now, forever haunted? The taste of fried chicken now brings a metallic tang, a faint whisper. The Colonel's secret, it's far more sinister than anyone could ever imagine. Story 2, this happened to me. The night shift at KFC was usually a quiet escape. I was Alex, a weary cleaner, and the deserted restaurant was my domain from midnight until dawn. It was just me and the familiar, friendly face of Colonel Sanders. The silence was thick, broken only by the hum of the refrigerators and the squeak of my mop. I'd grown intimately familiar with every nook and cranny of the place. The Colonel's portrait, a massive, cheerful presence, always seemed to watch over the dining room. He was always there, a benevolent patriarch overlooking his empire. His white suit, black tie, and iconic smile were etched into my memory. Sometimes I'd even talk to him just to break the monotony. "Long night, Colonel," I'd mumble. I started my routine, sweeping, mopping, scrubbing down the counters. The fluorescent lights hummed, casting a sterile glow. The restaurant felt oddly larger, emptier when no customers filled its spaces. It was just me, the quiet, and the Colonel. That night, though, something felt different. As I moved around the dining area, out of the corner of my eye, the Colonel's smile seemed a little too wide, a little too knowing. I shook my head, blaming fatigue. I was mopping near the front entrance, my back to the main dining room. Then, as I moved towards the restrooms, a strange sensation prickled my neck. It was the distinct feeling of being watched, an intense, unwavering gaze. I dismissed it, just a trick of the light, I told myself. The way the shadows played in the empty booths, or maybe I was just more tired than usual. Working alone in silence can do that to you. But as I walked past the counter, I looked up at the Colonel's portrait. His painted eyes, usually so benign, seemed to follow my every movement. They were fixed, unwavering, no matter where I stood. I blinked, rubbed my eyes. My mind was playing tricks on me. It had to be. It was just a painting, a static image of a man long gone, nothing more. I forced myself to focus on the task at hand. I moved to the back, cleaning the kitchen. The feeling of being observed lessened, but didn't vanish entirely. It was like a lingering chill, a phantom touch on my back. I worked faster, eager to finish. Returning to the dining area to finish the floors, I deliberately avoided looking at the portrait, but I couldn't shake the feeling. I knew, without looking, that his eyes were still on me. A shiver ran down my spine. It was just a trick of the light, I repeated, but the conviction in my own voice was weakening. The restaurant felt colder than usual, despite the heating being on. I tried to rationalize it. The angle of the portrait, the way the light hit it. It was designed to create that illusion, wasn't it? A clever marketing ploy, even in the dead of night. But the prickling sensation on my neck persisted, growing more intense. It wasn't just my imagination anymore. This was a physical feeling, a constant awareness of a gaze. I was truly being watched. Panic began to stir. Asterisk, it's just a painting, Alex asterisk, I whispered to myself, my voice barely audible in the vast silence. Asterisk, just a painting. Asterisk, but the words felt hollow, unconvincing even to me. As I cleaned the glass display cases near the front, I caught a glimpse of the Colonel's reflection. His smile, usually so unchanging, seemed to stretch wider. Not a happy wide, but a predatory one. I stopped, my heart pounding. I looked directly at the portrait. It was back to its normal, benevolent expression. Had I imagined it, my mind felt like it was playing cruel tricks. I continued cleaning, my movements jerky. Every time I glanced away, then back, the smile seemed to subtly shift. Sometimes it was broader, sometimes almost a sneer. I couldn't trust my own eyes. A cold sweat broke out on my forehead. This wasn't just fatigue. This was something else, something deeply unsettling. The cheerful portrait was becoming a source of intense dread. I tried to focus on the grime, the grease, anything tangible. But the Colonel's presence filled the room, a looming, smiling specter. I found myself instinctively avoiding direct eye contact. It was like a perverse game of peekaboo. Every time I dared a quick glance, his smile seemed to have changed just enough to make my stomach churn. It was knowing, expectant, malevolent. My heart hammered against my ribs. I felt a growing sense of vulnerability, completely alone in this vast, silent building with a portrait that seemed to mock my sanity. The unease was suffocating. I began to walk in wider arcs around the dining room, keeping as much distance as possible from the wall where the portrait hung. It was irrational, but I couldn't help it. I needed space from those eyes. The constant awareness of its presence was draining, more exhausting than the physical labor. It was a mental marathon, a battle against an unseen, unmoving foe. I just wanted the night to end. Even with my back turned, I felt the phantom stretch of his smile, the subtle shift in his painted gaze. It was a silent, psychological torment. The Colonel was watching, always watching. The restaurant was completely silent now, my cleaning finished for the most part. I was just tidying up. The hum of the refrigerators seemed to intensify, filling the void. Then I heard it. A faint, almost imperceptible sound, like a rustle of paper or a breath. It was so soft I almost dismissed it as the building settling or the wind outside, but it was distinct. I paused, mop in hand, listening intently. The restaurant was absolutely still. Nothing. I shook my head, convinced it was just my overactive imagination, fueled by exhaustion and paranoia. I resumed cleaning, trying to dismiss the strange sensation. But a moment later, it happened again. A fleeting sound, like a soft, drawn-out sigh. It seemed to come from the direction of the portrait. This time I was sure it wasn't the building, it wasn't the wind. It was a sound, a whisper, so faint, so delicate it was almost untraceable, yet undeniably present. My blood ran cold. The whispers returned, clearer now, not just a sigh, but a low, guttural murmur. It was indistinct, like someone speaking through a thick wall, but the sound was undoubtedly human. I stopped breathing, my entire body rigid, my ears strained, trying to decipher the sounds. They were like dry leaves rustling, then coalescing into something more defined. My heart hammered. Then I heard it, my name, Alex, it was barely audible, a raspy whisper, but it was my name. Chills shot through me, colder than any winter wind. No one else was supposed to be here. I stumbled back, knocking over my mop bucket with a clatter that echoed deafeningly in the silence. The water sloshed onto the freshly cleaned floor. My hands trembled uncontrollably. The whispers intensified, growing clearer, more possessive. My domain. The words were low, resonant, filled with an ancient authority. You are in my domain now. A profound sense of dread settled over me, heavy and suffocating. This wasn't a trick of the light or my imagination. This was real, and it was coming from the Colonel. The words became distinct, no longer just whispers. They were a low, guttural growl echoing from the portrait. My restaurant, my rules. The voice was ancient, authoritative, chilling. Panic surged, a cold wave washing over me. I wanted to scream, but my throat was tight, constricted by fear. Every fiber of my being screamed to run, but I was frozen in place. Suddenly, a cleaning bottle on a nearby cart tipped over, seemingly on its own. It rolled to a stop at my feet. My eyes darted to it, then back to the Colonel's unwavering gaze. A chair, previously tucked neatly under a table, was now slightly askew, pulled out just enough to suggest someone had recently sat there. But I was alone. I knew I was alone. The air grew heavy, thick with an unseen presence. A profound chill seeped into my bones, colder than the deepest winter. It was no longer just a feeling, it was a palpable entity. I looked at the portrait again, and this time there was no denying it. The eyes were no longer benign. They were undeniably malevolent, burning with a possessive, ancient rage. His smile, once so comforting, was now a grotesque sneer, frozen in time on the canvas. It was a mask of pure, unadulterated malice. This wasn't a man, it was a monster. The realization slammed into me with the force of a physical blow. This wasn't a hallucination. The Colonel was here, he was real, and he was watching me with terrifying intent. Then a clear, resonant voice filled the entire restaurant. It wasn't a whisper anymore. It was loud, booming, yet it came from everywhere and nowhere, vibrating through the very floor. Asterisk, you are mine now. Asterisk, the voice boomed, emanating directly from the portrait, yet enveloping me from all sides. Asterisk, you are in my service, my newest employee. Asterisk. His painted eyes burned into my soul. Asterisk, devotion to my domain, loyalty to my legacy. Asterisk, the words were a command, a chilling pronouncement of ownership. I was trapped. I screamed, a raw, guttural sound that tore from my throat. My legs finally found their strength, spurred by pure, unadulterated terror. I had to escape. I had to get out. I dropped everything, my cleaning supplies scattering across the floor. I sprinted towards the exit, fumbling with the lock, my heart threatening to explode from my chest. I didn't look back. I never returned to that KFC. I found another job far away, but I'll never forget that night. I still see his watching eyes, his malevolent smile. Some founders, I learned, never truly leave their businesses. They just watch. Story 3. My years on the KFC graveyard shift were routine. The quiet hum, predictable shadows. I thought I knew every aspect of this job, every silent moment. After 2 a.m., it was just me, occasional truckers, maybe some teenagers. Silence was my constant, broken only by the radio's static, a comforting isolation. I was unflappable, or so I believed. Bizarre requests, raccoons in the dumpster, nothing surprised me. This job was a second skin, a predictable comfort. The quiet hours were for reflection, planning, thinking, or just enjoying the city's rare stillness. A peaceful solitude, a stark contrast to daytime chaos. Then one Tuesday everything changed. The POS clock blinked 3:16 a.m. I was finishing paperwork, anticipating another hour of quiet. The drive-through speaker crackled, jarring. I grabbed my headset. "Welcome to KFC, how can I help you?" I recited, my voice automatic. A low, raspy voice came through, like gravel, like someone hadn't spoken in days. An immediate, primal shiver ran down my spine. "I'll have the Colonel's Crispy Cruncher combo," the voice ordered, slow and deliberate. My hand froze. That name, it couldn't be. The Crispy Cruncher combo was discontinued over a decade ago. A relic. My blood ran cold. This was impossible. "I'm sorry, sir," I stammered, voice shaky. "That item was discontinued." A low sigh followed the silence. "No, it's still there," the voice insisted, eerily certain, just like it always was, with a large cola and mac and cheese. I frantically scrolled every menu option. Nothing. My heart pounded. It simply didn't exist. "Sir, it's not on our menu," I repeated, trembling. "Anything else?" The silence that followed was heavy, suffocating. Then a soft click. The line went dead. No car, no headlights, just the voice, the impossible order, then nothing. I stood frozen. A prank, but who'd know such an old item at 3:17 a.m.? Too specific, too unsettling. Sleep was impossible. Next night I was on edge. Every sound made me jump. I dreaded 3:17 a.m. My rational mind battled foreboding. Precisely at 3:17 a.m. the speaker crackled. My breath hitched. The same raspy voice. "The Colonel's Crispy Cruncher combo." "Sir, I told you," I stammered. The voice cut me off. "Don't you remember? My boy's favorite, just like he liked it." A chill swept through me. This wasn't a prank. The specificity, the insistence, it felt deeply personal. Again the line died. No car, just the impossible order and my boy. I questioned my sanity. This became ritual. 3:17 a.m. The call, the crispy cruncher. Dread intensified. I feared the clock. I searched online for old KFC menus. The crispy cruncher combo was real from the early 2000s, but why now? The voice grew eerily familiar. Not someone I knew, but like a distant memory, a news report perhaps. Sleep deprivation became my companion. Shadows moved, the building creaked, my nerves frayed, stretched thin. One night the voice added, "An extra gravy." my heart stopped, just like my boy liked it. Extra gravy, my boy. A vague, unsettling memory surfaced, a local tragedy, a name. It felt important. Days off were spent in the library, not sleeping, scouring archives for boy, KFC, tragedy. My obsession grew. Days blurred, the crispy cruncher combo haunted my thoughts, disturbing my fitful sleep. Then I found it, a small article, 12 years old. Local man dies in tragic accident. Mr. Henderson, my blood ran cold. Mr. Henderson, fatal car accident just a block from this KFC. Date, October 27th. Time, 3:15 a.m. He was on his way home, the article said, with a birthday meal for his son who loved the crispy cruncher. Witnesses saw a KFC bag scattered near the wreckage, a bag of food with extra gravy. The pieces clicked, horrifying clarity. The voice was Mr. Henderson's, his last, desperate, unfulfilled duty. He was trying to get that meal, reliving his final moments, trapped in a loop of paternal devotion and tragedy. That night, 3:17 a.m. approached with new terror, not just fear but deep sadness. I knew who was calling. The speaker crackled, the Colonel's crispy cruncher combo. The voice began, softer now, with extra gravy for my boy. I didn't try to explain or deny, I just listened, heart heavy. Then, a faint whisper, barely audible. He's waiting, a wisp of sound, despair. His son still waiting for that last birthday meal. The line died, but this time it felt different, a sense of finality. Had I acknowledged his plea? I stood, tears blurring, a father's unfulfilled promise. He wasn't trying to scare me, he just needed to finish. The phantom orders ceased, 3:17 a.m. passed in silence. The speaker stayed quiet, he was gone or no longer calling. But the silence was worse, heavy knowing, filled with tragic echoes. The graveyard shift was never the same. Every night at 3:17 a.m. I pause, I look at the clock, then the silent speaker. I think of Mr. Henderson. The experience changed me forever. The world isn't mundane. There are unfinished stories, lingering presences, desperate for closure. I still work at KFC, but it feels watchful now. I wonder if other spirits linger, completing their last tasks. I'll never forget Mr. Henderson. His voice, his order, the heartbreaking whisper of father's love trapped in a loop. Sometimes, with the right wind, I hear a faint static, a whisper asking for that crispy cruncher combo. His son waiting, does he still wait? Did Mr. Henderson find peace? I hope they shared that meal. But I believe he's still out there, driving that spectral car, forever trying to reach the drive-thru for a son long gone. Every night 3:17 a.m. approaches, I brace myself. Some orders once placed can never be canceled. Some presences never leave. Story 4. As a young, exhausted mother, I desperately needed a moment of peace. My toddler, Lily, was particularly restless, bouncing off the walls at home. I decided to take her to an old, rarely used KFC playplace. It was almost forgotten, tucked away behind the main restaurant, a relic from another era. The plastic tubes looked faded, the colors muted, but it was empty, and that was all that mattered to me. I hoped for a quiet respite, a chance to sit down and just breathe while Lily entertained herself. It felt like a small, desperate gamble, but I was out of options and energy. Lily, usually reserved in new places, surprised me. She immediately took to the plastic tubes, her small figure quickly disappearing into the labyrinth of colorful tunnels. Her laughter echoed. I settled into a nearby booth, sipping my lukewarm coffee, finally feeling a semblance of calm. The sound of her happy squeals was music to my ears, a rare luxury in my chaotic life. Her delighted giggles resonated through the empty playplace, bouncing off the plastic walls. It was just her, me, and the quiet hum of the restaurant, or so I thought. Then a different sound, A faint, high-pitched giggle seemed to join Lily's. It was too soft to be distinct, but it definitely wasn't my daughter's voice alone. I dismissed it as an echo, or perhaps my sleep-deprived mind playing tricks. The acoustics of these places could be strange, I reasoned, trying to calm my sudden unease. Lily paused in her play, looking intently into a dark corner of the tubes. She smiled, a sweet, innocent smile, as if she saw something amusing only to her. Then she waved, a small, deliberate wave, as if acknowledging someone I couldn't see. My brow furrowed, a tiny prickle of worry starting to form. "Who are you waving to, sweetie?" I called out, my voice cutting through the quiet. Her response was immediate, muffled by the plastic. "My friend," she chirped back, her voice bright and full of innocent joy. I chuckled, attributing it to her vivid toddler imagination, as mothers often do. But her laughter, once singular, now seemed to be in conversation. There were definite pauses, as if she was listening, then responding to someone else's unseen cues. Faint whispers, too high-pitched and fleeting for me to discern the words, seemed to float from the place. They were like a breath, a whisper on the edge of hearing. I strained my ears, trying to catch a word, a syllable, anything concrete, but only the generic hum of the old KFC's ventilation system met my efforts. Nothing solid. Lily spent an unusually long time in one particular section of the tubes, intently listening, her head cocked. She seemed utterly engrossed in this silent dialogue. She'd emerge, eyes bright, telling me about a game they played or a secret her friend told her. I tried to ask more, but she'd just giggle and change the subject. I brushed it off, grateful for her engagement and the quiet it afforded me. But a tiny, persistent seed of unease had been planted, slowly beginning to sprout. This happened to me. I'll never forget that first visit, the way the silence felt heavy and the whispers lingered just beyond my grasp. It was the beginning of everything. Over the next few weeks, we returned to the KFC place. It was always empty, a ghostly echo of childhood fun, perfect for Lily and her unseen playmate. Lily's friend became a constant topic of conversation. Emily, she called her, a name that started to feel disturbingly real to me. Emily loved hide-and-seek, Emily told silly jokes, Emily had secrets. Lily would recount their games with vivid detail, her imagination seemingly boundless. I started hearing faint, childlike whispers even when Lily wasn't speaking. They were like a breath near my ear, a fleeting sound that vanished if I tried to focus. It was impossible, I told myself, just the ambient noise, my overactive imagination. Yet the sounds were distinctly childlike, a soft, ethereal murmur. I'd check around, glance quickly over my shoulder, but there was never anyone else. Just the empty booths, the quiet kitchen, and Lily playing alone in the tubes. One day, Lily emerged from the place, her eyes wide. "Emily is right behind you, Mommy," she exclaimed, pointing over my shoulder with a serious face. A sudden, inexplicable chill swept through me, an icy cold spot in the air where she pointed. My breath hitched. It felt like someone was truly there, unseen. The whispers grew clearer, a low, constant murmur just beyond my understanding. It wasn't just imagination anymore. Something was undeniably, terrifyingly there. I started to feel watched, even at home. The sense of an unseen presence lingered, a shadow in my peripheral vision, a faint sound I couldn't quite grasp. This chilling sense of being observed, of a secret shared between Lily and Emily, began to consume my thoughts. I felt a growing dread. This was real. One afternoon at the place, Lily emerged from the tubes, clutching something tightly in her small hand. My heart hammered with a terrible premonition. It was a tarnished, silver-colored locket, clearly old, with intricate, faded engravings. It felt cold to the touch, heavy with history. Emily gave it to me, she said, her eyes wide and serious, devoid of her usual childish sparkle. Her voice was flat, almost robotic. Emily never left the play place, she added, her voice a strange, hollow echo that didn't sound like my daughter at all. The words sent a jolt of pure terror through me. My heart pounded against my ribs, a frantic drum. I rushed home, the locket clutched in my hand, a terrible, undeniable truth forming in my mind. At home, trembling, I typed into the search bar, KFC play place disappearance, my city name. My fingers shook, dreading what I might find. The results flashed, chilling me to the bone, a local news archive from decades ago. A child named Emily vanished from this very KFC play place, never found. Lily's behavior changed dramatically. She became withdrawn, secretive, her eyes often fixated on empty spaces as if watching someone I couldn't perceive. Emily wants to play forever, she'd whisper, her voice devoid of emotion, a hollow echo of a promise I didn't want to hear. My blood ran cold. Don't tell Mommy our secrets, she'd warn me, her eyes dark and possessive, a look entirely alien on my sweet daughter's face. The whispers followed us home. Faint but persistent, they were like a child's breath on my neck, a constant, chilling reminder that Emily was now a part of our lives, an unwelcome guest. Desperate, I took Lily back to the play place one last time, hoping to confront whatever malevolent presence clung to it. It was a terrifying, reckless decision. Inside, the air was heavy, cold, charged with an oppressive energy. Emily's voice was clear now, a haunting, melodic lullaby beckoning my child. Come play, Lily, it sang, echoing from the deepest recesses of the tubes, play forever with me. The voice was sweet, yet filled with ancient malice. I found Lily reaching into a dark, empty corner of the tubes, her fingers stretching. A spectral, pale hand, translucent and bony, reached back, almost touching hers. Emily's ancient, angry face briefly manifested, a horrifying glimpse of a lost, vengeful child, her eyes burning with a desperate hunger to claim Lily. I screamed, a primal sound torn from my throat. My maternal fear gave me a surge of adrenaline. I yanked Lily away, pulling her with all my strength. We fled, never looking back, never returning to that cursed place. The memory of Emily's face, her voice, burned into my mind forever. Lily eventually recovered, the incident fading into a strange, half-remembered nightmare for her. But sometimes, in the quiet, I still hear the whispers. Emily is still there, I know it, waiting for another playmate in the forgotten tubes. This happened to me, and I'll never truly feel safe again. Story 5. That night, after an exhausting day, all I craved was comfort. The city lights blurred past my window as I drove home, my mind a jumble of deadlines and weary thoughts. This happened to me. The prospect of cooking was unbearable. My fridge was empty and my energy depleted. A warm, familiar meal was the only thing that could mend my frayed nerves. I just needed to unwind. KFC immediately came to mind, the smell of fried chicken, the crispy skin, the ease of it all. It was a simple indulgence, a guaranteed pick-me-up. My decision was made instantly. I pulled into the drive-thru, the glowing menu bore a beacon in the dark. A large family bucket, extra crispy, was my order. I handed over my card, anticipation building with each passing second. Finally home, I kicked off my shoes and dropped my bag. The apartment felt quiet, welcoming. The weight of the day began to lift as I placed the warm, fragrant bucket on my kitchen counter. I grabbed a plate, a fork, and a drink, setting up my impromptu dinner on the small coffee table in the living room. My favorite show was on, ready for a night of pure, unadulterated relaxation. Opening the bucket, the rich, savory aroma of fried chicken filled the air, instantly making my mouth water. It was the smell of comfort, of a simple pleasure, exactly what I needed. I reached in, pulling out a large, juicy piece of thigh. The first bite was heavenly, the crispy skin and tender meat a perfect balm for my weary soul. I savored the familiar taste. One piece led to another, and I felt myself truly unwinding. The day's stress began to melt away with each bite. This was precisely the escape I had been longing for, a moment of peace. As the bucket grew lighter, I reached deeper for one last piece, my fingers searching through the remaining chicken and crispy bits at the bottom. I was almost entirely satisfied. My fingertips brushed against something unexpected. It wasn't chicken. It felt small, dense, and oddly firm, nestled beneath a piece of fried breast. A sudden chill ran through me. The texture was alien, distinctly not edible. It was cold, too, a stark contrast to the warm chicken. My initial thought was a stray bone, but this felt different, more organic. Confusion quickly turned to a mild disgust. Had something fallen into the bucket at the restaurant? A piece of packaging, perhaps? I tried to rationalize the odd sensation, but failed. Slowly, I withdrew my hand, a strange sense of apprehension creeping in. My appetite, moments ago robust, now wavered, my eyes fixated on the remaining contents of the bucket. I peered into the depths, trying to discern what lay hidden. The dim living room light cast shadows, making it hard to see clearly. A vague, dark shape was just visible. My heart began to beat a little faster. It wasn't a wrapper. It wasn't a bone. The shape was too irregular, too deliberate. A knot of dread tightened in my stomach. A wave of irrational fear washed over me. What if it was something truly awful? My mind raced through possibilities, each one more unsettling than the last. I hesitated, frozen. Despite my growing dread, a morbid curiosity compelled me. I had to know. Taking a deep, shaky breath, I reached back into the bucket, my fingers trembling slightly. My fingers closed around the object. It was small, surprisingly light, yet solid. The texture was disturbingly smooth in some places, rough and shriveled in others. It was unlike anything I'd ever felt. With a surge of nausea and a shudder, I pulled it out. My eyes fixed on the object, my breath caught in my throat. This wasn't some mistake, this was something else entirely. What I held in my hand was a shriveled, dried-up piece of organic matter. It was roughly finger-shaped, though grotesquely distorted, with a leathery, almost mummified appearance. It was impossible, absolutely impossible. Yet there it was, undeniably real, nestled among my fried chicken. My stomach lurched, and I felt a wave of intense revulsion wash over me. A choked gasp escaped my lips, and I instantly dropped the thing. It landed with a soft, sickening thud on the coffee table, a dark, alien presence beside my half-eaten meal. I recoiled. I stared at it, unable to look away, yet desperate to. My mind struggled to process what I was seeing. A sick joke, a horrific accident, the possibilities were all equally terrifying. My breath hitched. This was not a chicken bone. This was not a mistake from the kitchen. This was something deliberately placed, something deeply, profoundly wrong. My heart hammered in my chest. Against my better judgment, I leaned closer, a macabre fascination overcoming my disgust. I needed answers, even if they were horrifying. My eyes scanned its surface, searching. That's when I saw it, a tiny, almost imperceptible etching on its shriveled surface. A delicate, swirling symbol, barely visible against the dark, organic material. My blood ran cold. My breath caught. It was a symbol I recognized. A unique, personal design I had doodled in my journal for years, a private mark known only to me. This wasn't a coincidence. Shock turned to pure, unadulterated terror. This wasn't a random item, it was a personal message. Someone knew me. Someone had placed this here for me. The KFC bucket was a delivery system. The realization hit me like a physical blow. This wasn't a mistake, it was a deliberate, malevolent act. The object was a calling card, a chilling announcement that I was being watched. That night, sleep was impossible. Every shadow seemed to move, every creak of the old building amplified. The first oddity occurred when I found my toothbrush in the kitchen sink. I dismissed it as my own absent-mindedness, a side effect of the day's horror, but a cold knot of unease remained. Had I really put it there, or had something else? Then came the whispers. Faint, almost inaudible, they seemed to drift from the corners of my apartment. Not words, just a soft, sibilant murmur that made the hair on my arms stand up. The sensation of being watched became constant. A prickling on my neck, a feeling of eyes on my back, even when I was alone in my locked apartment. I started checking over my shoulder. Lights began to flicker not just once but repeatedly in random rooms. My phone would ring once and stop with no caller ID. Small, inexplicable occurrences piled up, eroding my sanity. I'd hear creaks and groans from the floorboards above, or the distinct sound of a door slowly closing, even though all doors were already shut. My home, once a sanctuary, now felt permeable. Paranoia became my constant companion. I checked every lock multiple times, barricaded my bedroom door with furniture, and slept with a heavy object within reach. I was a prisoner in my own home. The relic, which I'd wrapped in paper and hidden in a drawer, seemed to be a focal point, radiating malevolence. Its presence permeated everything, a silent, sickening hum beneath the surface. Sleepless nights blurred into days of exhaustion and dread. Every shadow held a threat, every silence was pregnant with unseen activity. The intrusion was no longer subtle, it was a siege. This wasn't just my imagination. The entity was here in my apartment, watching, waiting. The signs were too numerous, too personal, too terrifying to ignore any longer. It was undeniable. The relic wasn't just a threat, it was a conduit. It had opened a door, invited something into my life, used a mundane delivery to bridge the gap between worlds. This was beyond horror. It knew my private symbol, something deeply personal. This entity wasn't just lurking, it was intimately aware of me, my thoughts, my very essence. It felt like a violation of my soul. This wasn't a random haunting, it was a direct, intimate threat. The KFC bucket was merely the vessel for a malevolent calling card, a declaration of intent. It had chosen me. Fear turned to absolute terror. My body trembled constantly, my mind a storm of panic. I was no longer just scared, I was utterly consumed by a primal, inescapable dread. It was everywhere. The entity's awareness of me was the most chilling aspect. It wasn't just a presence, it was a consciousness, observing, learning, feeding on my fear. I was its prey, and it was enjoying the hunt. One morning, I checked the drawer where I'd hidden the relic. It was gone. The paper I'd wrapped it in was still there, crumpled and empty. My blood ran cold again. Minutes later, I walked into my bedroom. There, on my pillow, perfectly centered, lay the shriveled, finger-like object. It had reappeared in the most intimate, impossible location. A bone-chilling cold filled the room, and I felt an undeniable, unseen presence surge around me, pressing in. It shattered my last shred of security, leaving me exposed, violated, and utterly helpless. The immediate, crushing presence receded, leaving behind an echoing silence and a profound sense of violation. I was left trembling, my world irrevocably altered. The climax had passed, but the horror hadn't. The entity's immediate presence receded, but the profound violation and lingering paranoia remain. Every comfort is tainted, every shadow a potential hiding place. I'll never forget that night, forever wondering if it's still watching, waiting. This happened to me.